Maintaining a
wormery.
Okay, Rich.
Right.
Why have we got one tray only on this can of worms?
Well, this is one we've just started up, isn't it? So the first tray is the one we start the worms in, and we've just started feeding these guys. So this has been set up for what, about a week, something like that.
Yeah.
I see lots of worm eggs in there. Look,
Ooh,
worm eggs.
Worm egg. Let's show Ethel a worm egg. So how many worms is in that egg?
Depending on the species, it could be anything up to 10, but usually with these two species that we use, it's usually between 1 and 4.
Okay, so they hatch out how often?
Usually about 3 weeks, depending on the temperature, but 15 days, 3 weeks, something like that.
There's no smell.
No, it's odourless. That is the beauty with a wormery, really. It is completely odourless.
Just like Karen.
Absolutely.
She's odourless.
That's right.
So we've got the moisture mat on the top, which
Yep.
seems to be breaking down.
Yeah, it does break down. That's made of hemp, of course. Very, very important moisture mats. Have to have something on there. These hemp moisture mats are the best, but you could use an old cotton t-shirt or a woolly jumper or something like that. But that encourages the worms to work in amongst the area that you need them to be in, i.e. the area that you're adding your fresh food to all the time, your kitchen waste.
Okay, so once we've filled this tray,
Yep.
have you got a wormery that you've made earlier?
I have. This is oddly a wormery that we've had set up now for a couple of months. All 3 trays are working beautifully.
Okay.
And take this on. Now obviously, when you've got to a certain level, i.e. the level that the next tray sits on in the wormery, then you can add your next tray and then you can start adding waste to that. So what you're doing is encouraging the worms to work right up through the kit. And the beauty of having these 3 trays is that you have a really nice differential between the way the waste has been worked. So your top tray is always the one that you're going to add your waste to. So we've got all sorts of goodies in here.
What are these little white things?
There's little
waste?
jumping jacks. They're called thrips. In a wormery you get lots and lots of different creatures, but they're all harmless. You know, perhaps the only ones that you might worry about are ants, but purely because they nick your worm eggs. They're not. They're completely harmless to anybody that's handling a wormery. But you get these little decomposers like thrips and potworms and all that sort of thing in a wormery. But they're all helping, they're all contributing to breaking down your household waste, making beautiful compost.
There's a tiny worm.
That is a baby composting worm. Yep.
How old would he be?
He's probably about 3 months old.
Is he? Gosh. I can see the compost inside his body.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're fairly transparent bodies at this age. And obviously they get redder as they get older.
You eat a lot of bananas, don't you?
Yeah, lots of nanas. Very good for you, aren't they?
Yeah. Do worms like them?
They do. They love banana skins. I mean, there's not much that they don't like. You can pop pretty much everything in there. A couple of things that we recommend that you don't put in there. That is onion skins and citrus fruit peel. A, because they've got a waxy film on their skins, and it takes longer for the microbial life in the wormery to break it down before the worms can eat it. And also it's slightly acidic. And worms will tolerate acidic conditions, probably a pH as low as 3 or 4, but they would prefer a nice neutral pH. And really it's those conditions that are conducive to worms that you want to create in a wormery that's all important, because obviously you want the worms to be as happy as possible so they can feast on as much of your household waste as possible.
So, apart from those things, which I can put in a little bit of them, can I?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I check absolutely everything in mine, but
And
the
me.
reason that we recommend that people don't is because we want to make sure they have the best experience possible. Once you're a bit of a hands-on wormery person, you know, you've got your wormery husbandry down to a fine art, then, you know, you can put all sorts of stuff in there.
Yeah. So when you start it off, that's the time to be most careful.
Definitely, yeah.
Once it's going like this,
Yeah.
anything goes in really.
It does. I mean, they do like all sorts of things, you know, the contents of the Hoover bag and potato peelings and tea bags and coffee grounds and all sorts of stuff. And they like us, you know, they like a varied diet. But they do like fibre in their diet. And one of the beauties of the wormery is you can put lots and lots of shredded paper and cardboard and whatnot in there. Anything up to about 25%.
Okay. So, how much waste can I put in here? Because is it going to deal with my whole volume of waste from my kitchen? Is it guaranteed? Is it a waste disposal unit? Is it a solution, Richard?
It is. It's definitely a solution, or it's certainly a part of the solution. Yeah. I mean, you can put in, when these things are set up and running, you can put in a couple of kilos of waste a week. She'll be able to deal with a couple of kilos of waste a week once all the sort of worm population in there is thriving and you've got your kind of optimum efficiency, which is quite a lot really when you think about it. That's a reasonable amount of waste. So, but one of the beauties of a wormery is what you're essentially doing is turning your household waste into something that is quite valuable and very expensive to buy.
Well, let's have a look at the result then, darling.
Fantastic! Look at those. Look at all these little wrigglers hanging out at the bottom of the trays. The beauty of these trays, of course, they've got those little perforations in the base, so the worms are toing and froing all the time. Now, what we have here, not that I want to disturb these guys when they're doing their conjugals.
I love it when you talk dirty.
Yeah. These are. Do you know what these are doing?
Love.
There's a bit of love going on there, yes, yeah. In fact, oddly, you can see what they're doing. They've kind of fused either side of the saddle, and this white here is the sperm that they're exchanging. So they're quite literally exchanging these little sperm parcels. So should we put these back then? Let's leave them to their love making.
I think so.
There you go.
But this stuff.
Yeah.
There's no smell.
No, completely odourless, isn't it?
But it's black.
It is black. I mean, any organic waste, the richer it is, the higher in nutrient it is, the darker it becomes.
Is that right?
Absolutely. And this is the second tray, so in fact, this isn't as good as it gets.
Right, let's have a look.
Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
Gosh.
So really, that's ready to go out onto the garden now. Either be dug into the garden or used as a potting compost, mix it with a little bit of soil, and use it as a fantastic potting compost.
Would you dry it out first or not?
Not a good idea, because worm casts tend to set bullet hard when they go dry.
Right.
So, in fact, if you mix it with a little bit of soil, then that'll be absolutely fine. It'll retain the moisture. If you dig it into the soil straight away, that'll be fine. Or alternatively, if you have something out, mix it in with a scoop into a watering can. You have beautiful black liquid, then you could water out onto all sorts of plants.
But although the worms, most of the worms have left and they're in the top layers, there's still some left.
There are.
Does it matter if I put these out?
It doesn't matter probably because there aren't that many in the bottom tray compared to the two trays above it.
Yeah.
But it would be a shame to lose your worms. There's a really neat trick here. So we can lift this tray that was the bottom tray off.
Yes, Rich.
Then the second tray becomes the bottom tray.
Right, Rich.
The top tray becomes the second tray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take the moisture mat off.
And then take the moisture mat off.
Yeah.
And the bottom tray becomes the top tray.
Your worms are still in there, love.
How's your back?
Not so bad.
You all right? And so it's an amazing little neat trick. What you can do, quite literally, is something that takes you 3 seconds every 20 minutes over the course of a couple of hours while you're milling around in the garden. Scratch back the compost like that. 3 seconds. Within 20 minutes, all the worms in that little area there will have wiggled their way down through into the layers below. And quite literally take out that beautiful compost. Do exactly the same thing again. 20 minutes, all the worms are there. And you just carry on doing that, if you're busy in the garden anyway. It's no problem to keep popping back to the wormery. You can leave that much waste in the bottom of the tray. So that much compost in the bottom of the tray, so that's absolutely fine. And then, of course, once this tray is empty, you can start adding to that tray again.
What about the liquid?
The liquid is the piece de resistance of a wormery, really. And it's one of the beauties of a wormery, because you do have the luxury of being able to harvest the liquid.
Go on then. Shall I do the honours?
Go on, go for it.
1 pint or 2?
1. Look at
Oh, thank God it worked.
that. That's it. Isn't that beautiful black plant food? The best liquid fertiliser that you can get. And that now you can use that, dilute it down about 10 to 1 and water it out on absolutely anything at all.
I've got my watering can.
Okay.
I filled it up.
Rightio. There we go. Let's pour that into there. Beautiful. And that's cost you absolutely nothing.
Really? I thought it cost 89 quid.
Free as a bird. Yeah.
Fine. I'll just water the cameraman. That'll do for that.
So, Hev, when people experience problems with their wormery, what are the main issues they have?
Acidity, moisture. That seems to be just about it, except ants. But we'll talk about that in the next episode, which will be called Troubleshooting a
Wormery.
Bye for now.
Bye.